Welcome to my presentation. In this presentation, we shall see vector operations in two dimensions. Let us try to first of all define some basic terms. Some basic terms are I and j vectors. What is an I vector and what is a j vector? Okay. In here, the way to understand this is as follows. Let me draw a graph and I will explain that this will be very easy to explain from this point on. So if this is the x-axis and if this is the y-axis, and if I were to take a unit on the x-axis and y-axis, if this is 1 unit and this is 1 unit, and if I were to represent from the origin, if I were to represent, I'm going to draw a red line here. If I were to travel 1 unit on the positive x-axis, I can call that as I vector. If I travel 1 unit on the positive y-axis, I can call this as a j vector. And therefore, now an I and j vectors I can therefore state as follows. I is a vector of unit length. I is a vector of unit length in the direction of the positive x-axis. J is a vector of unit length in the direction of positive y-axis. That is the way we can define an I and j vectors. Okay. So let us see how we can do an algebraic representation of vectors. So let me write that here. We want to see how we can represent algebraically a vector. Algebraic representation. Algebraic representation of a vector. Okay. Algebraic representation of a vector. The way to do that is as follows. Okay. In here, again, let me draw a simple graph, and then based on this graph, I will explain all the details related to this. If this is the y-axis and if this is the x-axis, and if from the origin, if I were to travel 1 unit, if this is the x-axis direction, and if this is the if I is the unit vector in the positive x direction, and if j is a unit vector in the positive y direction, then we can represent then the algebraic representation of a vector is going to be as follows. Okay, so I can represent this one as a vector which is going in this direction, and the j vector, I can also write it like this here. This is the j vector, and if I were to project it up all the way, this is going to be bj, this is going to be ai, and this is the vector which will be this is how an algebraic representation of a vector can be thought of. So therefore, the way I can write this is vector v can be written out as ai plus bj. Let me explain this some more. If I is a unit vector of if I is a vector of unit length in the direction of positive x-axis, and j is the vector of unit length in the positive y-axis, then any vector v, which is here, any vector v can be represented as ai plus bj. where A and B are the magnitudes of the horizontal and vertical components respectively. This is what is called the algebraic representation of a vector. Okay, we will use this algebraic representation of a vector and then try to solve some simple example problems related to vector operations in 2D, two dimensions.